Okay, guys, good morning. Welcome back to Tomboy Official. I'm having a hard time posting daily, and I'm almost thinking I should post more than once a day. But also, I don't want to just be posting fluff. If it's not anything that anybody wants to listen to. So I have options. Maybe making things shorter, rambling less, staying more on topic, because y'all know I do not do that. I am nowhere near on topic, and I am very aware that a lot of times I'm just like somewhere else. And yeah, but I do kind of like doing like Friday, Saturday, Sundays, like recording on those days. It's kind of nice. Because I'm not recording like after work. Like right now it's 8:48 a.m. Like it's morning, so I kind of like that a lot. Having some decaf coffee. I'm at the hotel. If you listen closely, maybe you can hear the freeway in the background. It gets noisy. It's noisy out here. San Diego builds a lot of there's a lot of hotels on Hotel Circle, obviously, but all over the place. And a lot of them tend to be in like very noisy, loud areas, like right off the freeway, which I kind of get, because you probably don't want to put a hotel too far from a freeway, too much into a residential area or whatever. But it's like, it's not really all that quiet when you're near a freeway. It's just like all that noise. Like there are a couple hours, maybe late in the daytime, like early mornings, like maybe around 2-3 in the morning, maybe from like 2 to 4 or 2 to 5-ish. And then it picks up again. And then like the problem when it's that, time of early daytime / still night, because most people are still technically mostly sleeping or coming in late from somewhere. Mostly when there are those times of day or night, I don't know how to say it, but those early morning hours, it's not like a consistent like white noise of traffic. It's more like like an occasional person driving past, so that can make it a little bit less nice. I guess I would say, because it's like you hear a lot of things. You hear a lot of I feel like it's more noticeable. It's harder to just like tune it out. Like with the traffic in the background, I notice it, but it's like, it's not like annoying, but it's like, because I'm from a city, I can deal, like, I grew up living off like Highway 1, and also, grew up in LA, so it's pretty common you're gonna hear stuff overnight. But also I do notice that when I'm in a place where it's really, really quiet, like if I have earplugs in or something, it's really nice. But I do kind of like to hear my surroundings too. I notice when I do get pretty stressed out, I kind of get like this hyper vigilant nature about myself, and having earplugs in, even though it helps me sleep, and it makes things really quiet and silent for me, it can be a little challenging as well. Because then I'll be like, wait, did I hear something or did I not hear something? It's kind of like, especially when I'm in a place I don't really know, it's like the sounds are all different. Like the sound of somebody walking down the hall versus, somebody pushing a cart, in the parking lot, or like, the sounds of the different car alarms, and like there's just different sounds that, like, when you've lived in maybe an apartment for a long time, you get used to all the types of sounds and all the, like, maybe your neighbors have a specific schedule. You kind of get used to different things like that. But I feel like when you're in a hotel, it's like there's a lot of like randomness. But yeah, I'm having a good morning. I want to talk about this book. I don't know. I feel like I've mentioned it before, but I didn't talk much about it. And I'm trying to get more into reading and writing. Ever since I was reading those reflection papers, I kind of was liking, remembering how I used to do more of like reading and writing about, um, reading and writing about, my, like about life, and in like a reflection way and like a journaling kind of way. I really do kind of value that sort of, writing and like experience. I get a lot out of it, so if I do, I'm pretty sure some other people might as well. Um, but yeah, I'll let you guys into my mind a little bit as well as I'm kind of like going through this. I'm gonna talk a little bit about this book. So there's this book that I think I've mentioned before, but for Pride Month, I think it's a good book to recommend. So it's called Coming Out Happy by Dani Max. So I first came across Dani Max on YouTube watching queer YouTube music videos, and she had this video, what was it called? I can find the name of the song. There's this one song she has called Tequila, which is I like the lyrics to that one. Kind of like this whole idea that like there's somebody kind of like playing with your mind, playing with your heart, kind of like they only call you when they're on tequila. Saying that like they're a tease, like it's kind of like a song that seems like it's about, and I could be wrong, but it seems like it's about when you get like when you know somebody and you're starting to try to figure out if you're like interested in them or if they're interested in you, and then basically it turns into like this kind of strange set of patterns. And so instead of being like open, like, okay, I like you or whatever, like, or if the other person isn't saying that either, but then you're kind of just noticing their patterns, and it sounds like this person has a pattern of being on tequila and calling and being a tease, but not really like owning up to like actually their actual feelings, or being like very open about their feelings when they're sober, maybe. And that kind of can make the other person feel kind of like, okay, like what's going on here? Because like you kind of act like you like me sometimes, and other times it's not very apparent. So it's kind of like, sometimes the actions don't really match kind of what you can kind of tell is kind of going on, or like the words don't match the actions or something like that. But it's a fun song. I like it. It's very relatable. I like gay musicians. I'm a little older than a lot of the younger ones, but I appreciate it. I'm like, yeah, you guys go. Like you keep on, keep posting stuff. It's really cool. I really like hearing about like different experiences people have, and especially as over time, those of us who are LGBTQ plus individuals, the representation is changing almost rapidly. We're kind of seeing a lot of differences, and it's kind of nice. It's been kind of nice to see and notice and hear a lot of the different kind of situations that are kind of going on. It's been just kind of like a nice experience, but there's a lot of scary stuff too in the world. That's like, okay, like not everywhere in the world is safe. Things are getting maybe better to some extent in a lot of places, but then in some other places they're probably not getting better. Like I kind of noticed like there can be some backlash to things getting more, I don't know if you want to say popularized or more like public attention. It kind of gives rise to public attention from other people as well, who might be like like negative about, certain different diversity groups of people. Like, for example, I was talking to a friend. I've talked to a couple of friends about this, about how there's like a lot of marketing going into like, rainbow this and rainbow that, like during the month of June, which is fine because it's like, okay, like at least we're kind of opening conversations about like, queer representation, and like what does this rainbow flag mean, and what does pride mean, and what does Pride Month mean, like what's the history of it, and all these types of things. And I'm not here to say like don't go to parties and don't go partying, do all the stuff, and like, yeah, celebrate life. I'm like, I think there's a time to be somber and a time to be kind of like, reflective, and like, like in it about certain stuff of, your own historical background. But also it's okay to party and to let loose, and, to let your pride flags wave high. I don't knock it, but I do think, a lot of us spend a lot of time with, not only negativity, but it can be very complex out there for a lot of us. So also, like, Dani Max has this other song, I think, Tell Me, and then I think Tell Me was the other song that I had heard first from her. But oh man, like the lyrics are really good. The beats are really good. It's kind of this like pop vibe that's like almost got this like hip hop R&B feel. So it's kind of nice depending on what kind of music you like. Like it's kind of got a little bit of everything. A little bit of like electronic kind of. I don't know if she makes music, if she's the one who's like writing all of the like the lyrics, the beats, like the melodies, like doing it like on her computer and stuff, because it does sound like a very, 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 very high quality but homemade. Like the reason why I say that is like it's got a lot of personality to it. It's not like your stereotypical like, beats that you would hear from like a like when you go to those like banks to download, like I don't even know what they're called, those websites or whatever, where you download tracks that you're gonna use like in your videos or whatever, if you're making YouTube content or something. It's not like that. It's not like that. It's I can tell it has like a uniqueness to it. Like somebody made this music, and it's really good quality too. It doesn't sound like, oh, like it wasn't produced well or mastered good or anything. It sounds really great quality, like in headphones and everything. It's like it sounds good, but it doesn't give me a vibe of like this is just somebody who sits and has like one style and cranks out tracks for people to like put in the background of their music. Like it's not like that. It's very like intentional, and like it's very I like it. Like it appealed to me. I'm really into like beats and like just kind of like the simplicity of like a beat, and just putting like beat, bass, and a melody, some drums, to a track, and then seeing like how far that can go. Maybe add some keys, with a little guitar or something, like, or like a little like synth or something like that. And it's like I really like it, and so I really do pay attention to how music sounds, like the music itself, not just like the lyrics, but I like to listen to the actual like music itself, like how it was made and how complex it is. Like I feel like whoever wrote the actual music is a very skilled person, as well as the singing, as well as the written lyrics. Like it's very relatable. I'm liking seeing a lot of musicians out there that are queer, and they're talking about our stories. It's like, okay, like it's nice to listen to a female talk about a relationship with a female, Um, versus like, I mean, I'm not even knocking songs, but there's this song by y'all are gonna shoot me if I don't get this right, probably. Let me see. I gotta find it. So because my SoundHound messes up when I'm trying to capture songs, and sometimes it's probably just me and I'm not saving them in the right spot, I end up screenshotting. I freaking screenshot the captured songs, and so I have them on my phone as like saved pictures of screenshots. That's what it is. It's by Drake and Lil Baby, called Girls Want Girls. And it's kind of an interesting song because it's like two cis straight guys kind of making this like fetishy song. And so let me put it this way. I don't fetish shame people. Like, I understand that there is a certain amount of the population that's attracted to women, you know, especially like I feel like the attraction tends to be to the idea and fantasy of one femme woman being with another femme woman. I don't know where the guys' minds are going. Like, maybe they're like, I've heard a lot of guys being interested in threesomes. I've heard a lot of guys being like, so I've heard a lot of guys being interested in like threesomes with like lesbians. I guess, I mean, maybe more women is better for them or something. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a power dynamic thing. Maybe it's like an ego, like yeah, I get like a lot of ladies kind of thing. I don't know where the psychology behind it's going. I'm not trying to even be like critical of it. I'm just saying that I am understanding that this is something that comes up. But as being a person who does date women, it's a very interesting thing to come across in my own real life when there are people who approach that are like, oh, you know, they're maybe like inappropriate about asking about those relationships and dating experiences that I might have had with women, or they automatically think like, hey, like, if you get a girlfriend, like, come bring her over and we can hook up, all three of us. And I'm like, that's not really what's happening here. It's kind of like I've literally come out to people and they've said things like that, where they're just like, oh, like, you like this girl, well, maybe if you guys ever want to hook up. And it's like, dude, I just like came out to you and told you I'm gay and dating a woman, and then your first comment is like, you want to you hook up. It's like, dude, we play basketball together, like, we're not hooking up. Like, it's not like that. But it's like, it's just kind of one of those things that to me is like not something that I would say that it's not something that I'm like completely opposed to, but the approach of it is sometimes just like very one-sided. Like, I think it's different if somebody were to ask you like, oh, are you interested in like guys joining in the couple, or like what, like if they're like curious asking versus like they just assume that, hey, I have this kind of like fantasy that I'd like to have fulfilled, so can you please come join with your girlfriend? And it's like, what? Like, and especially when it's someone that you're not even romantically involved with, and it just happens to be that like he just happens to be a dude and like you just happen to have a girlfriend. It's like, what? Like, it's like we don't even like each other, we're not even like together like that, like we never flirt, you're not even interested in me, but now all of a sudden if I have a girlfriend you want to have sex. It's like, that's weird to me. That's just weird. I'm not like trying to shame it, I'm just saying, just like, it's weird that it comes up. In my opinion, it's weird. This isn't even the topic that I was trying to really talk about, but what I'm trying to say is like, yeah, like there's that mainstream song, this Girls Want Girls, and it's kind of just an interesting song because it's like girls want girls where I'm from, and like it's like, okay, but it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like I just don't know. Um, um, and I don't really even know the lyrics, but it's catchy. I mean, I was driving in the car singing along to it, so I mean, I like the song. That's why I saved it. But okay, um, so yeah, I would recommend you guys checking out some of the content by Dani Max. Her and her partner have a YouTube. Uh, they're on YouTube. They're on Instagram. Let me see. They have a podcast. And so Dani Max, LGBTQ plus life coach. And so there's Dani Max Inspires. There's Coming Out Happy. And there's comingouhappy.com. So Coming Out Happy is like on Instagram. And then there's some photos that look like either San Diego or LA type spots. I believe she's from San Diego. At least I heard a lot of info about things she's mentioned about San Diego, but I don't really know. But that's really cool. And so I wanted to read a little bit in her book, because I think I find it helpful. Like, I was reading some of it this morning. I brought some books with me to the hotel because I'm like, dude, I don't want to just like sit here. I don't really watch TV. I tried last night. I tried to watch TV, you guys, and I got frustrated. I turned it on and I was like, well, maybe I'll just watch sports, like that's something I can watch. So I turned on the TV and there was like nothing really that I wanted to see. It was on this like Spanish station. I think the remote in the hotel doesn't have a battery. Let me see. I think it needs a new battery. It takes 2 AAA batteries, and it wasn't, I could turn it off and on, but I couldn't press guide. I couldn't change the volume. Well, I think I did change the volume. That's all I did was change the volume. I turned it down, but I wasn't able to like change the channel or go to guide. And then I tried it a couple times and just turned it off. So I don't really know. Maybe it's the remote. Maybe I just don't know how to use the remote, because that would be not not too surprising. So Dani Max's book, Coming Out Happy, has a lot of like good chapters, good info. I'm not gonna read the whole book. I don't even know if I'm allowed to read books on the internet. But so it has lessons 1 through 5. Before that, it has acknowledgments, prologue, my story, and it has introduction. And then after chapter 5, it has epilogue, and then about the author. So the lessons all start with A's. I don't know if that was intentional, but lesson 1, acknowledge. Lesson 2, accept. Lesson 3, allow. Lesson 4, adventure. Lesson 5, activate. So I was reading like and it's a short book. It's like 38 pages long. So I'm gonna read some of page 6. Like it's very easy to read, but I make mistakes when I'm reading, so bear with me. I have in my system right now some water and decaf coffee, so just bear with me. So the top of page 6 is like not a full it's not a full new paragraph break. It's like mid paragraph but a new sentence. So It just says accepting yourself is about being at peace with things as they are and without blaming anyone else for why you live or feel the way you do. It's about being okay with who you are in this minute, even if you aren't going to the school you want, you don't have the job you want, you're not in the relationship you want, or you don't have the body or the friends you want. By accepting yourself, you can start to trust that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and you can start to believe that things will turn around for the better. You can see that taking responsibility for your life gives you your power back, and that this is what you need to do so that change can happen. Maybe you're thinking, what happens if I'm lost? What if I don't know all the pieces that make me unique? What if I don't know my passions, my sexuality, or what I really desire? Everything can feel stressful when you don't know who you are, but over time, you'll start to understand who you are and what's important to you, and you'll start to create the real you. I want you to think for a minute about what you are sure of about yourself. Maybe you're sure that you don't like math class, but there's an interesting language elective that gets you through the day. Maybe you're for sure that you love to be creative and that you don't want a career that doesn't let you be creative. Or maybe you know that you want to spend your free time with a few good friends who are honest, fun, and inspiring people. People who you need to surround yourself with right now. That's a great start. Trust that you will learn over time what you want and that you will accept where you are now. Because as you go through this process of learning to love and accept yourself, you will find yourself along the way. Accepting yourself means knowing who you are and what's important to you. It means you're okay with where you are now, even if everything isn't in place. It means opening your heart up to being okay with discovering yourself whenever it happens, even if it doesn't happen when you want it to. Accepting yourself means being open to a new way of thinking and feeling without denying parts of yourself or your feelings as they begin to surface. Let's talk about how to accept yourself. To help you to see yourself more clearly, write down all of your strengths, weaknesses, and passions. Write about how you feel. Or if you think it would, so it's end of page 6 on to page 7. Write about how you feel. Or if you think it would help, talk about what's going on in your life and in your head with someone you trust. Pour out everything you can think of that makes you you. Don't worry if you don't have all the answers yet, because you'll find them. By talking about what's going on with you, writing about it, looking at it, and thinking about it, you'll be able to see things more clearly. You'll be able to see the cards you've been dealt in life and how and why you feel the way you do. Everything will start to make total sense once you can really see your experiences, your upbringing, and the choices you've made. And it says once you see yourself more clearly, think about what has been holding you back from feeling happy, free, and incredible. Are you struggling with your past? Are you denying a piece of yourself on some level? Do you have fear or self-doubt? Are you believing someone else's opinion of you? Did you start believing an opinion of yourself that just isn't true? Are you denying your denial right now? Lots of people struggle with denial because they're afraid to uncover their true selves. To keep up their denial, they distract themselves with food, alcohol, people, TV, and other things that stop them from looking at who they are and how they really feel. So that's a little near like halfway through page 7. So I really like this book. Like I'm a sucker for questions. I'm one of those people that's like, I'm really into the exploration process of things, and I like a good question. Now, I don't like being interrogated. Like if I'm in a social setting, that to me is like, I don't really like it when people are just like coming at me and just like trying to like grill me about stuff and challenge me on everything I say. Like to me, that is not how I like to have conversations. But I do know some people in my life that are they kind of give that kind of vibe. It's not like they're really trying to get to know me or get to help me like figure out, what's going on, but they're more like maybe uncomfortable with something and try to like grill me on stuff. Like to me, that's annoying. Like it's kind of like unnecessary. I don't really need that. I don't really see the point. But there are a lot of people that will just be grilling you. Sometimes, at least in my life, I know a couple people that get like that. I mean, I've talked about this before, but something I would say that is definitely a weakness of mine, is like kind of like how things can be for me when I'm in a quiet space. So, I like meditative practices. I like, emotional processing and just kind of like, taking like emotional dumps and like a mental dump and just kind of like getting everything out. Not like in the open, like podcasting and blogging is probably the most open of things that I would say that I do in the general public, but I don't really get like way too personal with it. It's kind of still, I still kind of play my cards close, but I'm, sharing at my own will. Like I try to be as open as I'm willing to be when I'm posting stuff on here. And sometimes I'm just not really feeling like being too open about stuff. But other times I'm like feeling really like I want to be like open about certain stuff. So it just really depends how my mood is when I'm recording. And if I'm able to really be like in tune with myself. But I do recognize a lot of odd things like that I've adopted, like as far as things that I didn't always do. And I'm trying to think of when it started happening more often. Like definitely during the Rona was probably when it was at its worst. But in a way, I feel like it helped too. Like I'm kind of in another place with it now, to a point where it's not like such a problem. But it did get in the way, and it does kind of lead to a little bit of, not like fear, but a little bit of like I'd say just like discomfort, and just like I'm annoyed more so by it, that like my mind kind of can go to places that are just not positive. Like I mentioned this before, like I tend to think about things that I'm critical about myself for, things that happened years, like 10, 15 years ago, like ages ago, there were these things happening. It's funny. So the last recordings I made before this one, were some reflection papers I wrote in like 2010, and those reflection assignments, that I turned in during grad school, the ones I was able to find, it's kind of interesting because like I wasn't fully like aware of myself, or, hadn't too much explored my sexuality, but I always knew that something was like up, something was like not really vibing with what people were telling me, And I kind of lived in one of those environments where people were always like, oh yeah, you're straight, like you're straight because you're black and you're Christian. It's like that was basically the way I was kind of taught, like, which sounds maybe weird to actually believe something like that, but it's like if you have a bunch of people telling you this kind of stuff, it's like when you look around, you're like, yeah, maybe you're right. Like when I'm at a church, I don't really see a lot of gay people, or when I'm around like black people, there aren't really a lot of gay ones. And so at least when I was growing up, it was kind of like that. And so I was like, well, maybe they're right, maybe they're onto something, maybe I'm not gay, like, and then I remember things like my mom always explaining like how, well, not always, but a few times mentioning how like she thinks that I'm wearing the clothes that I wear because she kind of wore jeans a lot. And like I kind of see kind of how parents can like take on things and think that you're like a certain way because of them, but it's like, dude, I was this way from like youth, from like a young kid. Like I told her, I mentioned this before, how I remember when I was younger and I used to kind of like look in the mirror in the bathroom. We had like a full size mirror as like one of the walls. It was like this gigantic mirror. And I would like stand in the mirror like after taking a shower, and my hair was all like scraggly, and like it wasn't like afro-ish because it was like wet, but it was like wet scraggly hair. And I was like, I look like Mowgli. Like in my mind I was like, I look like just like some dark skinned kid that's like kind of skinny, that's like, in my head, that was what I could relate to, was Mowgli. I wasn't thinking about like necessarily like the gender that I was thinking of, or I wasn't thinking about I was just thinking like, oh, that's kind of probably more so what I'm gonna look like when I grow up, like is like an adult version of Mowgli. Like I didn't think I never had like a viewpoint of myself as like this high femme kind of like look. I did also at certain points, and I've talked about this before, I did also at certain points think that maybe it was like an immaturity thing. And then when I hit junior high and I'm like a little more mature, or maybe when I hit high school and I'm a little more mature, or maybe when I hit college and I'm a little more mature, I won't be like so tomboyish, and I'll be more like feminine, and I'll actually start liking femme things and being more interested in like boys and all this kind of stuff. I was just like, well, maybe I'm just too young. And I don't know, I tried to make sense of it in the way that I thought I could, and that didn't really work. But basically I think that I do tend to have this like, if I'm not careful with where my mind is going, it'll just go to this place of like, remember that thing you did like 10 years ago, like remember this thing you did, and just like reminding myself of stuff that's like really, like this was like past 2010 at this point. Like there was stuff I was doing that I'm still remembering. It's like, why am I even like spending any energy with this thought? Like really, it's not like anyone was like emotionally damaged or harmed by it in a way that was like problematic. So it's not like, okay, I need to like work through this because I did something wrong against somebody. But it's more like me just kind of like criticizing myself about things that happened like 10-15 years ago. It's like, what the heck? Like, why? Like, what's the point in that? Like, there's no point in that. And I noticed there's no point in that. But when I first like wake up in the morning, sometimes I'll be like in my head in those spaces, and I'm like, this is just not useful. So I've been better at like not doing that, because I'm just like, or at least like taking myself out of it and trying to do more productive stuff. If I'm tuning into things, I try to make sure it's like something a little more on the positive end, or something I vibe with. And if I'm just trying to like be in my own mind, I try to just just kind of just tell myself to stop. Just like, dude, you gotta just cut it out. Like, you're really getting nowhere with this mindset. Like, you're not really helping anybody, especially yourself. It's like you're not helping yourself with this kind of mindset. Like why don't you make some beats? Why don't you write some poetry? Why don't you record a podcast? Why don't you read a book? Why don't you watch some YouTube? Like, why don't you do anything that's more productive than this right now? Because that is draining my energy from creative productivity. Like, I don't think I should use that mindset, but it is so automatic too. And I do have a history of being around people that are very judgmental and very critical, and I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of where I probably think it comes from, because a lot of the times when I'm thinking of these like situations that happened in the past, it's like, okay, there's some embarrassment with what happened, but then also there was another person bringing to my attention that, oh, this didn't go perfectly. And so, it wasn't necessarily always me that was like, oh, I shouldn't do this. It was like, you could tell maybe people were like observing you, and like you could tell like the energy of their energy kind of changing because of something you did that was maybe not what they expected, wasn't considered right to them or whatever. Or maybe it's in my own head, and that kind of stuff. Like, it's just like simple stuff where you can just be like, really, like that's, it's just not accurate sometimes. But like, it's kind of weird too how my mind can just like repeat this thoughts about those events. And it's like, I really don't even talk to any of the people anymore. Like, I don't talk to, the pastor I grew up with. There are a lot of people I grew up with in a certain church that I just don't really talk to them. Like, the people who were critical, who were like teachers and all these kind of people, I don't talk to them either. Like, so it's kind of like a weird thing that's like, I mean, I do think it is kind of like a trauma-based thing, but also it's kind of like a weird kind of thing too, because it doesn't seem like it would be such a like an impacting event. Like, even when I think about it and talk about it out loud, I'm like, this doesn't seem like it should bother me still this much. And it's not like it bothered me all this time. It wasn't bothering me for like the whole time it happened. It was kind of like in more recent years I started thinking back on these things. It, like, when they happened, I was like, oh, it happened, but like I just left it and just moved on. So it's kind of interesting how it came up like later, and it's a lot of just like weird stuff. It's not even like stuff that would make a whole lot of sense to really remember, but it's like, I'm done with really like trying to like make too much sense of it right now. Like, I'm not done with trying to make too much sense of it, but I'm done with letting it kind of get in my way so much. I'm just gonna have to not really like lean into it when it starts happening, and just kind of like be like, whoa, like I got other stuff to do. I got bigger fish to fry. I don't need to be spending all my energy. Like, it's hard enough to get energy to do the things I want and need to do anyways. So like, the last thing I need to be doing is spending my energy thinking about this kind of crap. So, that's something I'm very aware of. Like, it's definitely those types of things. I would say they're in a way weaknesses, not necessarily that it automatically happens, but I think it's more of like, weaknesses that sometimes I will more purposely not get out of it. I think that's not helpful. Like, sometimes I'll like indulge it, and just like be like, I'm in the mood to like maybe not feel like my best today, and then that kind of spirals into different excuses of like, I'm just not gonna have a healthy food day today, or like, I'm just not gonna exercise today because I'm tired and drained because this morning didn't go the way I wanted it to, and I was in my head about all this stuff. Like, it just creates like, just like, I notice myself sometimes making that choice like purposely. Like, sometimes, most times it isn't like on purpose, but the times when I kind of purposely decide to kind of like let it sabotage things that I'm actually trying to do, I think things that are productive, that would be healthier and better for me and make me feel better and do better in life. And I just kind of like would rather spend my energy in these other spaces that aren't helpful. Like, I think that's a weakness. I mean, I kind of have a problem with using a word like weakness sometimes, because it's kind of like, I mean, I know that there's stuff that I'm definitely not good at, but also I just kind of like keep it to myself too. I'm just like, okay, this is just what I'm dealing with today. You know, I don't really like reach out to my friends about it or anything. Like, I'm just kind of like, all right, like, here we go. Like, I do. That's not true. I do. But I have a friend that I talk to probably most often about this kind of stuff. But I mean, they've got a lot going on right now, so I'm not really gonna, you know, like, I can tell, like, I wasn't always like this, but I can tell now, like, when I'm kind of like overwhelming somebody. I try not to do that. I mean, there are therapists available, there are peer related things available to like use for support. I don't need to be like unloading on my friends like 24 hours, but sometimes I'll just like cue them into like a situation that, you know, if somebody's just like being annoying again, I'm like, this person keeps like freaking calling me, and like, you know, I'll let them know about that, and I'll try to keep it like a temporary thing. It's not like, okay, I'm gonna text you all day about this person, because other people got their own stuff in their own lives going on. Like, they're not just trying to like, you know, I don't want to like overwhelm people with issues, but I don't want to make it their issue. But I would say those things right now are probably weaknesses or areas that kind of contribute to me not necessarily doing what's on my list of goals of things that I want to do. Like, when I think about my day tomorrow, or I think about my day on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, I don't like foresee, or I don't like predict that I'm gonna just like wake up and have a bad morning and like not do anything healthy or positive for myself, or, you know, just be in a bad mood. Like, and that's not what I want for myself either. So I don't really think like that. I don't really think like, oh, like, when I start in this day, I'm gonna be like this, you know, like, I'm, you know, but I do, I am aware, and I acknowledge that my mind just kind of does naturally do that kind of stuff. Strengths, I would say that I like my hobbies. Those are big strengths to me. They bring me a lot of joy. I have a lot of passion for a lot of things that, you know, I gravitate towards, especially when it comes to like poetry, music, writing in general. Those things are just definitely, you know, a big part of my nature, even though I wouldn't say I'm like super skilled with them. But I also notice that, you know, my job sometimes, you know, drains my emotional energy to a certain point where it's hard for me to really indulge in certain things that I'd like to indulge in that are positive for me. So I do struggle with that. I've been struggling with like, okay, like, you know, even like right now, I'm like, okay, I could go like type up some blog posts for the last few podcast posts that I've made, but then I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like that's gonna tire me out for when I have to go out later today. Like, in my head, that's kind of how I think. I'm like, well, it's gonna make me too tired if I start doing this. It's gonna make me too tired, and then I'm not gonna wanna, you know, I'm gonna be too overwhelmed to like have fun with my friends. Another thing that I'm trying to kind of get better with is like, when I'm thinking about like upcoming events in the future, I do kind of get in my head a lot about like stuff that's going to make me nervous or anxiety provoking points. So like, like, it could be anything from like something I wear, because sometimes I don't really like people. Like, it's kind of weird. I don't like drawing attention to myself with my clothing, even though I do like the little fashion choices that I make. Um, I have a weird style, guys. I really do, but I do like my little fashion choices. And then like I like my fashion choices, but it's kind of interesting that I don't really like my, not all my friends, but certain people that I know try to, affirm me and make me feel good about certain decisions I've made. They try to like put a positive spin on stuff sometimes, and or like I'm like, that makes it sound like I think they're being fake. I don't think they're being fake. I think they're genuinely telling me things that they think are positive that they might like. But for me, sometimes it is anxiety provoking to wear something that I like, that I know somebody else might like, and then to have people commenting on that they like that thing that I'm wearing, or like that they like what I have on or whatever. It kind of makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Like I don't know why, really, because that's, they're being nice. Like it feels good to some extent, but then to another extent it's a little bit like, I've been taught and told the majority of my whole life that, like, you're not supposed to be wanting to dress the way that you do, that there's an issue with it, that it's not appropriate 24/7, and that sometimes you're going to have to bend to societal pressure to, wear what women wear, like wear femme presenting clothing. If you do this thing, like, people will get offended if you don't wear what they expect you to have on. And so, it's also interesting to see other people liking the choices that I make with clothing, and then I'm like, oh, they like what I have on, and that feels good to hear them say that. But it's also anxiety provoking for me, and it's like, why would that bother anybody? Like, for somebody to have a comment. I don't really like drawing attention to myself. I really don't. I don't like to be completely ignored, but sometimes that's more comfortable for me, to be just like ignored. But I do think that I do have like a, not necessarily like a fashion sense, but I like color. I like combining like bright, like pinks and, light color, like not so much like Easter pastels, but almost like neon and like just bright, shiny, like little trinket type things, you know, and wearing them, and they're kind of like mask presenting clothing, but it's got all these like feminine, like patterns or colors, like flowers and like all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, that's kind of the style that I like, where it's kind of like mask as like the fit of it, but then like it's got like that soft like femininity as far as like the color choices. I kind of like that. That's kind of more my thing. And I'm not like a what would you say? I'm not like a hard stud kind of person. Like, I'm not really, I'm more on the STEMish end. When people get to know me, I'm a very sensitive person. I will sit and talk about emotions, especially other people's emotions, if they want to just unload about stuff or talk about things. I really don't mind. It doesn't bother me. I wish that I didn't get anxiety about stuff, but I know that it's a part of just how things are going to go sometimes. So sometimes I just think that I'm trying to improve the way I spend my free energy, my free time with my own energy. I'm trying to improve on that quality and make it a better quality energy that I'm using, versus being like versus not making good quality decisions, things like that. So I don't know, like, I'm kind of, I'm kind of conflicted sometimes. I'm a little uh I can be a little like, I don't know. I really like connecting with people. That's a strength that I have. It's something I enjoy doing. Does it tire me out? Yes, but I mean, not in a negative way. I mean, I think there's some versions of being like tired out by something. Kind of like when you go to the gym, right? Like if you're never tired after the gym, or never like worn out a little bit, it's like, okay, maybe, it's time to step it up. That's kind of like, I'm not saying you have to be like half like limping and like can't breathe and stuff, and like you have to like take days off work just because you had a workout. Like it doesn't have to be like extreme or too intense, but it's like, I think that's how we build things, is to be able to kind of push to break things down a little bit, at least some of the time, and then go from there. Once we kind of break into our strengths, our strengthening, we kind of break into it more, and get stronger and stronger. Like we have to build that. And I think even with socializing and interacting with people, I notice I have to like build it. Like it's something that gets built. Relationships get built, and it's not like you're gonna build them by using low quality supplies, or low quality interactions. The interactions have to be on both parties, or all parties. They have to be valuable. And so there's a lot of like learning what other people need from you, learning what you need from them, learning how to communicate, learning what is expected, learning what maybe makes you nervous or what makes them nervous, and just kind of like being respectful. But it's good to be honest. It's good for everyone to be honest with themselves about how they feel about such things. But I don't know. I don't feel like it's too yeah, I would say, yeah, those are kind of my strengths and weaknesses, as far as like a combination of them. It's like strengths mixed in with weaknesses. Like I feel like they're not always 100% distinct for me, because I can kind of see the spectrum of everything. It's like, yeah, there's improvement on this end, or things that I'm working on, or things that definitely pump me up and get me hyped up like in a good, happy way, and then there's stuff that kind of brings me low. But I can kind of like, if I try to be intentional about it, I can kind of tailor my experience of the day to where I put my mindset. Just a lot of times it's just getting out of that automatic the automatic stuff that just starts happening, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like why isn't this over, or why is this happening again, or why am I dealing with this again? Something I enjoy, which might sound odd to some people, but to me it's kind of normal. I like people who are like really authentic, genuine people. There's a lot of like adult entertainers that I like their content, especially their interviews and things like that, because it's nice to see people who are, not body shaming, who are very positive about like how to keep up your health, how to keep up your appearance, how to keep up your mental health, how to, and just like you can look at them and physically a lot of times they're like doing well physically. I mean, I'm not saying I'm like so involved in like their stories and their lives that I like know exactly what they're doing, but it's like, the way they talk about like skincare or hair care or like different kinds of things that are like, it makes me more like motivated to like try, if that makes sense. Like, because I'm one of those people who can be quite disheveled, I just, I'll shower and like bathe and stuff. Like I'm not like coming out like dirty and like, but I can be quite disheveled and just kind of like um not paying attention to detail, that kind of thing is what I mean. um or like not getting ready with enough time. That's something that I really do a lot, is like I'll take a long time. Like I'll either I'll just start getting ready. Like if I need to be somewhere, I'll be like, I'll give myself like 30 minutes to like get ready. And it's like to look a little better, I technically need more than 30 minutes, including the shower. Like, because usually it takes me like 15 to 20 minutes just to shower, and then like my hair is like a whole process of its own, guys. So with the moisturizing and all that kind of stuff, it's like it does take a lot more for me to kind of like get my hair in a place that is like settled and looking like normal hair, or looking like I want it to look, and like shaped right, and like moisturized correctly, and like evenly like distributed, kind of like combed, so it's not like lopsided looking, and like it's like a whole thing. But I've also been using hats as accessories and enjoying wearing my hats, and so I don't really know, guys. But I mean, a lot of this has like nothing. I'm all over the place. I'm not used to recording in the morning. I haven't even really had, like, I have coffee early, and like I mentioned, it's decaf, and I'm not gonna eat till like maybe like 10:30. I have lunch at 12, but that means it's probably gonna be closer to 12:30 or 1. So I'm gonna have some oats around 10:30, and then when I get there, I'm just gonna kind of have an afternoon snack. It's gonna be an expensive $25 to $28 afternoon snack. But I'm excited about it. We'll see what happens. I'm glad to be seeing some friends today. Like, there's some people I haven't really seen in a while. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about for today, and hopefully I hope it wasn't like super negative. My intention wasn't to be super negative. It was to kind of shed some more positive light into things. But yeah, a lot of times I'm thinking out loud, so you hear it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening.